The 6.5 is live here in Hawaii. We are at the Snapdragon Summit 2023. Gosh, Dan, this might be our fourth or fifth year. I mean, we're having this much fun. I just lose track, and we're getting what we would have expected. A lot of conversation on new devices, new products, new platforms, but our favorite topic over the past 9 or 10 months,
Edge
AI.
computing. Oh,
Yeah.
well, we'll get to that though,
Yes.
right? But in serious, Pat, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to actually say, I think we got more than we expected. And in this conversation, we're going to dig into it. But we've gotten into this routine of going to events and kind of being like, oh my gosh, you're going to be so excited. And we're like,
Yeah.
we go to like 100 events a year. Like,
Yeah.
probably not. But I have to say, I tweeted a little bit more. I X'd a little bit more than normal. My LinkedIn feed has been blown up. I'm hearing a lot from the press. And I think this particular Snapdragon Summit may have been the most successful that I've been to. And that's something to say.
Yeah, it was big. I mean, it was market expansion. It was doing something in markets that Qualcomm traditionally hadn't done, and that was in PCs. But hey, let's get on to our discussion with our guest, Cristiano Amon. Great to see you. Welcome back to the 6.5.
Oh, I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to see you both here at the Snapdragon Summit. Hope to see you every year.
Yes.
And I agree with the comment that was just made. I think this is a very important on Snapdragon Summit for Qualcomm. If anything, when I say that Qualcomm is changing from communications company to connected processing company, I hope we deliver on that statement during this summit.
Yeah, I always come in with a bit of skepticism. I think as analysts, that's our job. But I am always surprised and pleased when the message is better, bigger, more exciting, gives us something to talk about, keeps our phones ringing. I've been to the recent IAA event, and I saw some really great things in what you're doing with automotive, and we'll hit that today. But Pat alluded to it, AI. I want to start there because we've been talking about it for a while. We had you on at MWC. You really started talking about Edge and AI with us, showing us off the Stable Diffusion last year. But you've come so far in such a short period of time. Talk a little bit about that vision, how that vision's evolving, and what you shared here today on your story around AI.
No, very good. Look, this is actually one of the main topics of the conversation at Snapdragon Summit. We're working very hard to get to the point that you want to have a Gen AI phone and a Gen AI mobile computing platform. And Gen AI is fundamentally changing user experience. Look, I am going to be a little bit like Qualcomm style, and I'm going to say we started talking about this before it was popular. If you remember, when we talk about 5G era, we said 5G and AI are going to come alongside, and it's going to blur the lines between the cloud and the devices, and that's kind of what we started to see, and we're able to demonstrate, especially as you think about the new use cases. But I'm going to take it from the top. What you have right now is the next big change in computing, and call accelerated computing. It's the ability to do AI pervasively, to do that in a way that, like kernels running on a CPU, you're going to have that AI engine running, and it's going to start changing how we interact with devices. And one of the things we wanted to do at this summit is to spend time talking about what exactly happened on device. I think we all see, and we're incredibly excited about what's happened on the cloud. And AI started on the cloud, and is developing and evolving in the cloud. But at the same time, the AI is developing on device on its own way. And the two are meeting in the middle when we talk about hybrid AI, where the device and the cloud are working as one. And it's changing not only the user experience, but even like a bold statement is changing the role of apps, especially when we think about phones and in our computers, we think about an app-centric environment. But now the AI can really bridge the cloud and the apps in a way that is completely transparent to you, because it's just your copilot, your system. And that's one of the main things we talk about this show. And I'll say what is really cool is the things that we always knew about mobile devices. And now think about Qualcomm talking mobile devices. That includes the PC, because we are in the PC now with some of the things we did. But mobile devices, they have something which is unique. They have context. They have your favorites. They know about you. They know where you are. They know what's relevant to you at that time. And that's a much more accurate input to a Gen AI model if you go from that device to the cloud and give the cloud a head start, or things that are just unique to you that is going to run on the device. And I think that's the whole thing about we're entering the Gen AI era, and the devices have an important role to play, and we're working hard to enable that.
So Cristiano, one thing I think you nailed today, which has been this question on kind of cloud versus on-device, right? But I have to ask you, because you're investing a ton of resources into figuring out and lighting up experiences. Can you talk about, what this might mean to an enterprise user or even a consumer for on-device generative AI?
Yes. Why don't we start with the consumer, and we try to show some of the examples as we try to put this into what you're going to visualize. So let's go talk about a consumer and talk about the consumer on the phone.
Yeah.
Things that you do every day, like you do every day. You text people, you and I, we can talk about WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And as you're talking, right, you're providing input. Think about this pervasive AI that is running all the time. As you're talking, as you're messaging, you're providing input. And that input has some relevance. So think about now, as we describe, this AI engine is running out of time, and it has one job, is to try to predict what you are going to do as a human that interfaces with the machine. So as you text and you tell me, Cristiano, I just met Dan here in Hawaii, and the machine, they can know that you took a picture with Dan.
Yeah.
So as soon as you say that, you're going to have a little tab for your gallery app with the picture already selected, and it's going to ask, Pat, you want to share that picture with Cristiano? Then you say, look, we need to talk about those things. Why don't we get together? And I said, I may come to San Diego in the first week of November. When you say that, you get a little prompt that said, those are available times in our calendar. Do you want to send a meeting invite or a Teams invite?
Right.
So those are things that you do every day, and that's just going to get assisted. But now let's change the conversation to photography, for example. You take a photo, and you decide, you change the background. Think of a model like ControlNet, image, text, image, multimodal, share the photo. You do that many times a day. And then the last thing I'm going to give an example is phone calls. We do phone calls. You make a phone call, get the call, summarize it for you, and tell you if you have any action that you agree. So those things are going to be things that are going to be running on device with the real context in real time. And then on the other part of your question, which is commercial applications. Look, I go back to Microsoft, which has been an incredible partner, and we've been on this journey together. Microsoft talked about $30 per month per employee, right? I will say that is inexpensive. If you think about the productivity gains, if you look about what is an hourly wage, that is very inexpensive.
Yeah.
And think about things like finding a file. Think about getting a draft of your email, get a preliminary response. All the things you see with the Copilot, and now with real context of your PC for the things that are relevant to you. So I think we're just the beginning. As you said, this is moving very fast. What is fascinating, Pat, is if we had this conversation about 12 months ago, I'll give you like one example.
Right.
We have hundreds of examples right now, and it's going to go to thousands of examples, so it's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm feeling confidence that we're gelling in on some applications that almost everybody can relate to. And the irony about this agent, your first example, we were talking about that 30 years ago, but we've been unable to actually do it. And I believe the technology is here now to be able to sort this out. It's not perfect yet, but it's getting there where we can deliver those experiences. Exciting stuff.
Do you think it'll do the calendar well enough? Now, inside joke, right? But Pat's very specific about how his calendars run. So it would learn, right? And eventually it'll do it exactly the way you like, and I still won't put it on my calendar. So
I think your agent will auto-magically put it on your calendar.
I actually need it more than he does. But this stuff is really compelling. And I think, it's kind of a cross between reading your mind, knowing where you need to go, and then, of course, being able to keep your entire network engaged. I mean, collaboration, for all the technology and all the advancements we've had, there's such an opportunity to make it better. And what's on those devices, that intelligence really is what's been lacking. whether it's your VA or an assistant or it's someone on your team, really kind of not only knowing what's on the calendar, but what you're thinking, who have you been talking to, who have you maybe got a scheduled thing with. This really works. But here's the thing, Qualcomm is really well understood, Cristiano, for its success in phones. But I've spent some time, I know you have too, Pat, really looking at the business beyond automotive and where you're moving into PC. Generative AI can't only be a phone thing for Qualcomm. Can you talk a little bit about how you see this expanding with the portfolio
absolutely.
expansion?
And it's not a phone thing only.
Yeah.
I think Gen AI is like this now general purpose technology that is going to be a part of every single device, and that's what we're doing. We developed this engine to accelerate Gen AI in every device, and we can see with clarity how this is going to make a difference. So we give examples of phones, we give examples on PCs, but I'm incredibly excited about what's happening on cars right now.
Yeah.
Because when you're behind the wheel, so I'm going to make two comments on the car. The first comment is when you're behind the wheel, natural language communication in visual communication is incredibly natural. Think about when you think about large visual models, how many cameras now in the car looking at things in real time. You have the information about you, and you're behind the wheel, and you're going to have a conversation with the car. The second part is the car is really changing its role. And this, I know it's a bold statement what we're going to say, but the car is becoming a new living space. You have like you have home, you have car, and as the car become like this digital, living space in your digital cockpit connected to the cloud, and the car has more autonomy. There are other things you're going to be able to do in the car, and then Gen AI is perfect for that. Like I'm going to go and go from the conversation we just had about daily activities you do on a phone, and I'm going to transport that to some of the things we're doing with our partners in automotive. Think about something that simple. You leave your office, you're going to go home. Okay, so there are a couple of information that the car knows how to get you home. It knows what time it is. You know what it usually do. So, for example, if you usually leave the office and you call your wife, so the car is going to say, Dan, do not call your wife. I'm going to call your wife for you. Then you have to pick up groceries. You already plan the stop. If you listen to the conversation and say when you to order, it may even order something for you. So even something as simple as going from A to B with the knowledge of you are and the ability to have this system running is going to change the experience. And I think we're just the beginning of this change. And what I like about this is across phones, across computer, across cars, it kind of blurs the difference between the cloud device. You may do things based on an app you have installed. You can go straight to the cloud. It almost doesn't matter. It's completely transparent for you. But the key thing is you have this AI engine that is running. And in the case of what I like about it, I know that's a long answer, but this is very, very interesting. You may have all of those constructs, right? You have computing, OSs, applications, you have all those things. But then, eventually you, as a human, you are seeing, you're hearing, you look at the screen. So the AI is looking at all those things. Even though it's your data, it's private, the cameras in the car is looking at everything around it. And then it can have access to everything. So it's a completely new paradigm shift when you think about the role of computing and apps and how we're going to interact with those devices.
So Cristiano, we talked about smartphone, PC, car, and we even saw some hearables, that are using more and more advanced AI, and then we have the cloud. There's a lot of players who want to win there and who are saying they're going to win, and I'm curious, how do you view your position in all of this AI ecosystem for on-device AI when it seems like everybody's gunning for this? Maybe it's a question about differentiation or winning, your unfair share of those markets. And this isn't inexpensive. I mean, the work you did up there takes a lot of resources as well.
Yes, I will say this on-device Gen AI and the capability to do it in a way that is going to deliver on all of those things we just talked about and all those possibilities and do it with the cloud, that's a Qualcomm-sized problem. And
I've heard that. I heard that on 5G, which
Yes.
was we really do
And,
really the best at the hardest problems.
yes,
Yeah.
and it's a combination of having the ability to invest at scale in some breakthrough technologies, plus the ability to push the boundaries of what's possible with the ability to do that in a way that still works in a battery powered device.
Yeah.
So great example of that is how we thought about the computing hardware required to make that as a reality, and that's not only having the best CPU, that we'll talk about that in a little bit, but the GPU, but also a dedicated NPU. And what is unique about it is CPU can do many things, and it's going to do AI. The GPU can do many things, it's going to do AI, but the NPU has like one role. It's almost like when people said, "Why do you did this?" Right? I remember when we had these conversations when you started to do video. You could do video decode on the CPU. It's just not a great idea. Right. You end up building a video decoder because you need a specialized hardware that's all that it's going to do at a very efficient power. So the NPU is there that anything you're going to run pervasive and it's going to run all the time. And I think that's a very unique differentiation of Qualcomm. And I'm going to give you the proof point. We show in February we're running an NPU Stable Diffusion. It's a very common model, large visualization model, at 15 seconds. Some of our competitors were saying, "Oh, we can also do it like at 45 seconds."
Right.
We show today at 0.6 seconds. So I think that tells you that we have a very differentiated platform, and it's not a coincidence that you see some of the greatest companies in the world really partner with Qualcomm, because if you are going to be a Gen AI leader, you can't ignore the device. And if you look at the number of models that we have now natively running on the NPU, and we show over there, I think Snapdragon is really becoming a platform of choice for you to bring your model to on-device AI.
It's
Appreciate
definitely an and, right? I mean, we've got the cloud to edge, and it's going to be additive, Cristiano. It's not,
Absolutely.
right? The cloud has a role, but the
Yes.
edge and the device has a really substantial role, and we're going to see this big training to inference shift. Right now, a lot of the AI dollars have gone to training, but eventually it's going to shift to inference, and inference does very well on the device. It's very efficient, and so that's where Qualcomm's the story becomes very compelling. Now, you teed this up, so I'm going to go ahead and wait. You don't knock it out of the park, right? When you go, okay.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna hit this one long. So the CPU has been something, really since the Nuvia acquisition, everybody's been really excited, and you've been doing this for a while. Both Patrick and I have come out. I think just yesterday I was on CNBC and actually mentioned I think Qualcomm's got a pretty substantial lead on its ARM variants because you've been at it 6 years plus, 7 now. But you made big announcements, you made big claims, and of course, Pat and I, we're analysts, so we believe you, but we always, trust but verify. I'd like to kind of hear, because these were, outperforming Apple, outperforming x86 in really big ways. And, you got on stage, and we like to say we do the victory lap. There was a couple victory laps run up there. Talk a little bit about the advancements, talk about how this kind of came to be, and how do you maintain that? Because it's a constant back and forth in this space.
Yes. Look, there's a lot to unpack here, but let's just go straight to the CPU. I think this is an incredibly, proud moment for the company, especially because, we've been saying that, as the company go into all of those other markets and we find new end markets for our technology, which really has been always about communications, computing, and now artificial intelligence. And we set ourselves on a mission, and that came in particular when we made the decision that we fundamentally believe in the convergence of mobile and compute, and we're going to enter the PC space. And we've been on this journey with Microsoft that we knew would take several steps to transition the Windows ecosystem to ARM, and we said we need to have the leadership position in the space, because that's the Qualcomm DNA. That's why you see us doing it mobile with our Snapdragon one part every year. As we go into the space, we need to have the leadership position, and we set ourselves to design what will be from the ground up the most efficient and powerful CPU for any better power device, and that's what we did. I think then we're we're so happy with the acquisition of Nuvia. That's an incredible team. I think we have some of the best CPU designers in the world. I know that's a big claim to make, but in the period that we're being to develop this and what we show, and I want you guys to go run the benchmarks. Go run it. Some of the things we show over there, we did it after running like 100 times. And I'll be honest, we put ourselves into, we're going to create the Windows SoC that will be competing with the M series, and I think the team exceeded our expectations. I'm not ashamed to say that. You show what we did. We exceeded the single-threaded performance of the M2 Max. So we have the world's fastest ARM CPU, not designed by ARM, and we have in the process became the first CPU. It was an i9 13980HX that you do in a gaming device, and we didn't lose the power advantage. So, but that's a typical Qualcomm thing. Like, we have to reinvent ourselves every year. We have to have a new Snapdragon every year. So I think that's just the first step on being in this market, been pushing the boundaries of performance. And as I said, I want you two to make your travel plans for Snapdragon Summit 2024 because it's going to be more CPU news coming at that time.
No, it's super exciting, and it turned out better than I expected, and I'm excited to get a hold of devices. But I wanted to ask, I know our time is running out here, but I wanted to talk to you about the PC market and the way that you're getting into it, right? We talked about the product, and in many cases, right, you have a 2x to a 10x advantage on certain parameters, okay? Which, you know, when you, again, you're not new to PCs, but this is like an absolute step up. It's really a quantum leap increase here. How are you addressing the market differently with Orion and the platform X Elite versus what you did before? And maybe talk about just your aspirations for the PC market.
Yeah, so I won't make a share commitment, but I'll
definitely not asking.
No, I understand you're not asking.
Answer that.
But I'll give you an answer. I'll give you an answer. But I need to break this down into pieces. First of all, everything we have been doing in PC today, and we've been very careful also of not setting expectations in the past, because it was leading up to this moment, because it was not an easy journey for both us and Microsoft of an ecosystem switch from x86 to ARM. And I think, for example, Windows 11, you now have ability for the Microsoft emulator to run every application. We needed to get a number of new capabilities. We have a lot of applications natively. So everything to date is in preparation for this moment, where I think we now have the capability, the maturity of the ecosystem, and the platform that it can be very meaningful for Qualcomm. The second data point is we're super excited about announcements of some of our other semiconductor companies saying they're going to build ARM compatible CPU. It validates that's the new SAM. That's the new SAM for Qualcomm, which is really the mobile compute PC ecosystem is available now with an ARM compatible instruction set. And then that leads to the final part of the answer. What are we doing now and what's different? So on consumer, it's kind of a little bit easier to understand. I think it provides Microsoft with an Apple Compete solution. It's thin and light. It's meeting the demands of higher performance at the same time with higher mobility, more battery life, and a lot of different capabilities that you can do. If you have this much processing capability on the CPU and the GPU, you can have a thin and light laptop that you can do games, you can entertain yourself, you do creative, you look at all of the different things you can do for productivity, for creativity, et cetera, as a consumer. On the enterprise, there's one interesting thing that changes, and I think that's not because of the CPU, but it's because the AI. One thing that changes in the enterprise is the enterprise or the commercial naturally will move slower to new ecosystem. So you'd expect that it's going to have a lag for enterprises to adopt this next generation PC in the same way that enterprises, for example, didn't adopt Windows 11 right away. But there's one thing that is very different right now. which is Windows AI. So if you look about the Copilot, if you look about the amount of value that exists for Microsoft with the Copilot, there's an incredible incentive to accelerate that transition. And we'll be able to ride the wave with all of the investments we did earlier. So I'll say now, without making any share projections, because we're going to be careful about it, but I think as we get to the second half of calendar 24, as those devices are going to launch with the new Windows, that's going to start it to be meaningful.
Yeah.
And we're really excited about that.
Tell you what, I want to take one for a test drive.
No, I mean, I might slip one in my bag on the way home, but hopefully
can't
nobody will notice.
Confirm or deny that I haven't already done that. Speaking of a test drive, I also want to ride in that i7 out front. You brought that beautiful BMW out here. You're going to take the 6.5 guys for a spin.
I don't know.
Absolutely, let's do it.
There we go.
I love it. Well, I want to just go ahead and say thanks so much for taking the time here. We know it's a very busy schedule. It's a busy couple weeks with all the stuff going on, all the travel, and of course I think that earnings aren't coming up too far away. I don't want to ask him about that, but I'll say something to you.
Yeah.
But congratulations on all the announcements here at Snapdragon Summit. We can't wait to check out those benchmarks and of course watch the continued evolution of your products, both on the handsets and the PCs.
Well, thank you so much. Great pleasure. I always love talking to both of you. And stay tuned for more.
We'll see you in 2024
Yes.
and sooner, of course.
Yes.
All right, everybody, hit that subscribe button. Stay with us here on the 6.5. We appreciate you tuning in. But for Patrick, for myself, for Hawaii, it's time to say goodbye. See y'all soon.